It's time for Remodel Revolution. And now, an award-winning contractor with over 40 years' experience. Here is Alex Guthrie.
Welcome to another episode of Remodel Revolution. We're here at the Remodel Revolution World Headquarters, right here deep in the heart of the great state of Texas. We're going to have a fantastic show today. I've invited my friend Poonam Patel to co-host with me for the whole show. It's another treat that I don't get often enough. I really enjoy Poonam, and she's a young, upcoming architect and designer, and she has got a lot of things to say. And so I want to say welcome to you this morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And we are going to talk about a few things today that Poonam and I have had lots of discussions about dealing with clients and selections and all the things that we have to go through as a contractor and as an architect designer, which she is. Poonam is the owner of Urban Loop Studio in Dallas, Texas. So if you're ever looking for a really fantastic young architect, this is the lady to call. And our first deal today is going to be our weekly news flash. And it's brought to us by Panoramic Doors. What happens, Poonam, when a married couple with different last names calls and makes an appointment at different times? This happened to me this week. This was so funny. So my phone rings, right? And this lady, she says, "Hey, I'm so-and-so, and I want you to come look at redoing a master bathroom." And I go, "Fantastic." And we make an appointment. About 5 minutes later, my phone rings again, and it's a man this time. And he says, "Hey, I was wondering if you could come to my house on such and such a street," and it was the same street, "and look at doing a master bathroom." And I went, "Yeah, sure, Well, they had different last names. So I didn't know. So I made an appointment with her for the next day, and the appointment with him for about 3 days later.
That's hilarious.
And so I called my wife and I said, "It's a great day, man. They're calling me two at a time. It's good. We got two." And so the next day I went to the appointment and I met with the wife, right? And the husband's there. And we realized that they had both made an appointment with. And I said, "You ruined my day. I thought I thought I hit a home run." So that was pretty interesting. Have you ever had anything like that happen?
I have.
Really?
I had a situation where the wife paid me, and so did the husband. So I had double the amount of money I needed.
And did you tell on them? Did you tell
Well,
the
of course.
husband that the wife had already paid you?
Well, I had to ask a question. I said, is this what's happening here?
Bonus.
Yeah.
It was a bonus.
No. You have to give it back.
No, I can't think of any time that I've been overpaid, or they're a lot more careful with me than that. I thought that was really interesting, and it kind of speaks to sort of the times we're in, where people are married and they have different last names, or I'm assuming they're married anyway. But I mean, this was an older couple, so I got a real kick out of that. I thought that was so funny. And that brings me to my next subject. We're going to talk a little later in the show, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into this now because it was the same client. So Poonam and I wanted to talk today a little bit about making selections and the process of making selections when you're talking to your designer, architect, or builder, particularly the designer and the builder, who are really usually responsible for making the selections or getting them and putting them in, that kind of thing. So this lady and I are discussing fixtures, and she hands me a list, and it's a fixture list of all of the plumbing fixtures that she wants in these two bathrooms. And I, but at the same time, told me that there was something she didn't like about the way they worked, right? And she goes, "So, if you can find something that's the same thing, just substitute it. I don't really care. And I said, no, 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 we're not going to do that. And I explained to her that there is a very specific, usually a very specific reason that somebody makes a selection, particularly women, particularly with plumbing appliances, because a lot of times it's about style, the texture of the metal, the way it feels, sometimes the way it sounds. What's your experience?
There are so many options out there, and clients have an opportunity to pick which one they want. And it makes me feel uncomfortable to select on the behalf of a client because sometimes it's functional reasons. I have a client who is having a progressive Parkinson's situation. So in that situation, they're being very conscious about if they want a faucet with two handles or just one that's going to be easier to shut on and off in the future. Sometimes it's about aesthetics. Some want a higher gooseneck to be able to wash larger pots, and quality as well. Sometimes parts are really they come inexpensive, but you get what you pay for. They're painted pieces where the paint eventually chips off, and then there's higher quality materials that'll last, where you can ding them around with pots and pans, and nothing's going to happen with them.
Well, and essentially what happens is they mimic each other. So the cheaper brand will mimic the more expensive brand, and that's because they know they can sell it at the big box store cheaper. And people will buy it like crazy because that's what they do, thinking that all things are equal, but they're not.
They're not.
No, they're not. So this lady, she was telling me this, and I said, and so I went over to her kitchen faucet, which was a different shape than I'd seen before. I mean, this was a brand I wasn't familiar with, and probably the reason why is because it's a little different than normal. And so I said, well, if you're telling other people, if you're interviewing other people, you're telling them all to this same thing you just told me, who knows what you're going to get? So don't do that. Just price it, have everybody price the same thing. And then if comes down to a price issue, then you can make a judgment on whether you want to change brands or whatever you want to do there. But really analyze the reason that you like something. There's a reason that you picked it. I mean, it's not all it. Now, if the husband picks it, it's because it was cheaper. To him, a faucet's a faucet. I mean, that's pretty much right, isn't it?
It's right, but it shouldn't be.
Well, I understand.
They're the ones that are going to have to fix the toilets later. Might as well get one that you don't have to maintenance as
or
often.
complain to me because of the price of fixing it. Yes, I totally get that. But there, particularly if you have like the houses that you and I work in that are really high-end homes, and there's a specific style of design that you've used. You might be in transitional, or you could be traditional, whatever it is. There's a specific style, and so you will make these selections based on that often. And it can be the finish. Now, I had an interesting discussion with an architect. We're putting together a bathroom, and he actually wanted me to offset the shower head. It's a tub shower combination, so you had a tub spout underneath the shower head. And he wanted me to offset the shower head because he said that the water from the shower head would drip down on the tub faucet and actually have a negative effect on ultimately, in time, on the color of that faucet, or it would put some sort of water stains on or something. And I'd never heard that before. I'd never had an architect say that to me. And so there's all these reasons that these decisions are made, and you need to really kind of analyze, why are you making them? And do you really want someone else making that decision for you?
I couldn't agree more. I think you have an opportunity to make your home the way that you would like it. And just like anything else, you have to do some research, figure out what's a good quality, what are the functional options, what are the aesthetic options available to you, and be able to curate an environment within your home that suits your taste instead of feeling like you're in some foreign hotel room every time that
Yeah.
doesn't work for your needs.
Right, exactly. And so, and it's not all about the cost. I mean, it has something to do with it. Obviously, for almost all of us, it's always comes down to cost. Okay, let's move on from all that stuff. Let's talk about this week's conservation tip, because I know this is near and dear to your heart, right? Because you have a yard?
I do.
Do you mow it?
I have before.
You have? Really? Okay. Well, this week's we've been doing a conservation tip each week, leading up primarily to the summertime, because that's when we need to be really conscious of all the things that we're doing to our environment, particularly water, recycling, all the things that when we get active. And this week's conservation tip is on helping keep the air clean. So if you've seen the Dallas skyline on a windless, warm day, I don't care what time it used to be, just in the summer. Now it doesn't matter what time of year. It's got this beautiful amber glow to it that it's not supposed to have. And it's, there's obvious reasons. There's like millions of people living here now, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. But one of the things that I have become obsessed with now, and particularly now that I've moved from a house that was on a couple of acres. I got tired of taking care of it. I moved into the city, so I'm closer to my neighbors. And I hate lawnmowers. Gas-powered lawnmowers, I hate them. And leaf blowers. If I never hear another leaf blower again, what's wrong with a rake? Use a rake. That's what I grew up with, a rake. Okay, so are you trying to decide whether to purchase a new lawnmower? Consider using electric lawn equipment, and here's why. The EPA statistics on gas mowers is really, really interesting. Gas mowers represent 5% of the U.S. air pollution. 5%, that's a lot just for mowers. Can you believe that? It's incredible. Gas mower, here's some other pollution facts. Of course, we know they're noisy. Sometimes I have to remind my wife, honey, it's like 9 a.m. I'm trying to sleep. What are you doing mowing this early in the morning? I mean, does your husband gripe at you when you're mowing the yard?
I'm still stuck at the fact that your wife is mowing the lawn for you. I think she deserves a compliment, don't you?
Not if she wakes me up.
Boo-hoo, Alex.
So I thought, just to make her life easier, I would get her an electric lawnmower. Yeah, it's quieter, and it won't disturb me as much. So here's how I'm going to make my argument to her why she needs an electric lawnmower instead of a gas lawnmower. Here's a fact: 1 hour of mowing, and this is with a gas mower, is the equivalent of driving 350 miles in terms of volatile organic compounds. 1 hour mowing with a lawnmower. That's unbelievable. One gas mower spews 87 pounds of greenhouse gas, CO2, and 54 pounds of other pollutants into the air every year. One more. Over 17 million gallons of gas are spilled each year while refueling lawn and garden equipment, more oil than was spilled in the Exxon Valdez. Each weekend, about 54 million Americans mow their lawns, using 800 million gallons of gas per year and producing tons of air pollutants. Garden equipment engines, which have had unregulated emissions until the late 1990s, emit high levels of carbon monoxide, volatile organic compounds, and nitrogen oxides, producing up to 5% of the nation's air pollution. These gas-powered lawnmowers have got to go. Now you go, well, if you use electric, you're still producing the electricity. That's right. But you can produce electricity cleanly. You can't run a gas-powered lawnmower cleanly. According to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, a new gas-powered lawnmower produces volatile organic compounds and nitrogen oxide emissions, air pollution in 1 hour of operation as 11 new cars, each being driven for 1 hour. Now, I'm going to buy my wife a new cordless lawnmower. Isn't that nice?
I think that's fantastic.
I mean, if I like for Valentine's.
No.
No?
Just not a gift. Just
Not a gift?
not a gift.
No, you know, I bought her a vacuum for Christmas one year. And gentlemen, especially young guys, don't buy your wife a vacuum for Christmas. Make sure it's like her birthday or some other reason. But Christmas, no. That's right. That's good advice, right?
Nope.
No vacuums. No vacuums.
You can buy them, just not as a gift.
Just not. Oh, okay. Just not as a gift. Okay, I
Yeah,
get it.
it's for the
Okay.
house. It's a gift for the house. not for her.
I see. It's a couple gift, a couple's gift. It's not a wife gift.
Correct.
Yeah, it's like Santa. Okay, I
Yeah,
got it.
a gift for your wife for Valentine's would be like a spa date
A spa
or
day.
something that she enjoys doing.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
As long as she'll reciprocate, I'm fine with that.
She's mowing the lawn.
A man,
That's reciprocating,
Man
right?
likes a little spa day too, you know.
Really?
Yeah. I like to have my nails done. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Poonam about her TEDx experience. You didn't know she was a TEDx. Look at her. Look at her. You go, girl. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hardest working and arguably most important system in our homes is our air conditioning and heating system. It heats the air, it cools the air, and it filters the air. That's why it's so critical to have it checked and maintained by the very best professionals available. It's time to contact Total Air and Heat at totalair.com. Get that system pruned and tuned. If you want to have the very best experience, you've got to hire the very best company. Total Air's employees are honest, well-trained, and thoroughly background checked. I never have to worry about sending their technicians out to my clients' homes. Family owned and operated for 3 generations, Total Air and Heat has been a fixture in North Dallas for over 60 years. Total Air is a proud dealer of the Trane air conditioning systems, and you know how hard it is to stop a train, so give them a call at 972-881-0020. That's 972-881-0020, or contact them at totalair.com today. One of the interesting things that I have found the last few years, I've started watching these TEDx talks, and that is where people have a limited amount of time. I think it's 12 or 15 minutes to come out and tell their story, an interesting story. It could be a product they developed or a reason that they developed. It doesn't even have to be a product. It can be just a life story, an inspiring story. And so my co-host today actually got kind of tapped on the shoulder, and someone said, you know, you've got a great story. You need to do a TEDx talk. That's a pretty big honor for a young lady to have. And the interesting thing for me is that as she was going through the process of the month or so before, and she was pretty nervous about it. She goes, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't have anything to talk about. And I said, just talk about something you love. Now, she will not reveal to me what that was. I have no idea, neither does anybody except the audience and the producers. But how was that experience for you?
It was amazing.
Yeah?
It has been such an amazing journey to the TEDx stage.
Explain to us what TEDx is exactly.
Yes. So it is put on by Chris Anderson, and the premise is to find all the people in the world who have some sort of knowledge on anything and begin to demystify the concept of genius. And so their motto is ideas worth spreading.
So you have to be a genius?
You have to know a little bit about something.
I'll never be invited. I'm safe. You're safe, world.
So they have different levels. They have TED Global, which are all of your people who have a global impact. then you have TED, which, by the way, stands for Technology, Engineering, and Design. And regular TED is people like your professors, people who are doctors, authors. And then there's TEDx, which is the local level. And that's the one that I did. And so I was invited to go, and the process is pretty vetted well, where, you know, you have to do an application, you have to do a 2-minute interview. And surprisingly, out of 180 people, I was one of the 10 selected.
Wow.
So
Out of 180.
I was pretty shocked about.
I generally have to pay someone under the table to get that far up in the line. Wow.
I didn't even know. I didn't even know that there was 180. I just thought, okay, they like the.
So what was the process? So you get you go through a process of interviewing and all that, and then they say, guess what, Poonam, you're it. We want you. What happens then? What do you? I mean, because I know you went through a lot of practice and a lot of soul searching. What you had to find something inspirational or something that they kind of gave you guidelines.
The guidelines that they gave us 1-year access to a thing called TED Masterclass. And so there's 11 modules on there that show you kind of some sort of parameter of what your story should be, how the outline in which your story should follow. And then I also read a book called Talk Like TED, which goes through 9 of the best TED Talks and dissects them and shares with us what makes a good TED Talk. But in terms of finding a story, that has to come from each speaker's heart. That's something that you can't replicate. And so to think along the lines of what it is about my life that could be something that could be valuable to somebody else is something that was different for me to think about, you know, because I've only lived this life. I don't know how or which experiences I've had are relevant and relatable to others. So there was this whole exercise of trying to figure out what that is. Once I found out that I got it, I was assigned a coach, Kimberly Hardman. She's amazing. And what I also did was reached out to some of my professors that I continuously use as mentors, and we have this 2-way street of trying to figure out, you know, how to approach certain challenges. And in this case, I invited them. I created a board of directors, so to speak.
Why does that not surprise me?
So it includes my business coach, Frank Roosley. It includes a couple of professors from my master's who are Donna Kakmar. And then I even reached out to some of my professors from my undergrad when I went to obtain my bachelor's in architecture. Those characters are Mark Blizzard, amazing, amazing guy, and Mahesh Sanagala. And what I did was I invited them. I said, hey, would you like to do this TEDx thing with me? And they said, yes. What does it entail? I said, I don't know. I've never done anything like this before.
So how did you get to, you had to do some soul searching to come up with something to talk about.
Yes.
Yes. What do you have to do there? Did you read your diary, or what'd you do?
I've documented it well, if anybody wants to know the exact steps that I took. One of the things that I did was I created a timeline, and on the everything above the timeline would indicate challenges that I've endured that I believe I've successfully navigated. And then below the line, I made a list of my rock bottom moments. There were many of them. It was very depressing.
Like all humans. Like all humans. And so you get to you come to the story, and then you go through you actually do the program. And now I realize it hasn't been unveiled yet because it's so amazing. They're hanging on to it. But then how do you feel after you've gone through this process? Because what I've found about things like this when I do them is that you go through this sort of internal investigation of yourself. How has this changed you as a person to yourself?
I've realized throughout this process, it has almost been like therapy, because I'm sharing these stories that are very deep and personal, and And to be able to hear my mentors and my coaches say it back to me allows me to see the story from different perspectives and help me realize that this is this was something that I really needed to address long time ago.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some other topics like planning a renovation and that type of thing. And while we're during the break, I'm going to tell Poonam just how proud I am of her for going through this process. I got to share a tiny bit of it with her, and I've got to tell you, it was really great, and I'm real proud of you. And we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a minute. Sometimes it's a question of do I call or don't I call the foundation repair company? Well, what if I tell you that I know a foundation repair company that will tell you if you don't need foundation repair? That's right. Hargrave and Hargrave Foundation Repair has been in business for over 50 years, and they know the difference. One of the last family-owned foundation repair businesses in North Texas. Not only are they honest, they know what causes your foundation to move, and they know how to fix it. Don't be duped by fly-by-night foundation companies that provide shortcuts and messy fixes. Call Hargrave and Hargrave Foundation Repair at 972-442-3415. At the first sign of trouble, Hargrave uses the Chance helical pier system exclusively because it's the highest quality, most reliable helical pier money can buy. 972-442-3415 or contact them at hargravefoundation.com. When you're starting a remodel and renovation, there is a process of where do you start? Where do I get going? What is step one to get going? And so I posed this to Poonam this week in preparation for this show, and I said, I asked her, what are your clients asking you when you get there and they go, where do I start? I get this a lot as a contractor, and I know as an architect and designer, she gets the same thing. And so she sent me some notes, and we decided to address it through the first thing is labor cost and material cost. We decided we wanted to talk a little bit about sort of what drives the cost of a project. And I wanted to just start this segment out with talking about labor on a project, on a renovation or remodel project, and it could be building a new home as well. And I get a lot of flack in my business because in the remodeling industry, there's a lot of gray area where we can't identify all the cost because we can't identify a complete project. In other words, I don't know what's in your walls or under your floors, and there's always something hidden. So I'm using my best judgment and my experience of years and years of doing it to understand basically what I'm going to have to deal with, understanding that there can be surprises. In other words, I can look at a plain wall in the middle of a room and assume it's a plain wall in the middle of the room. But when I pull the sheetrock off, I might find that that plain wall contains all the plumbing for the house. This has happened. And that might be a wall that we were going to put a doorway in or remove even. And so we have to make a decision. Are we going to remove the wall, or are we going to put the sheetrock back up and change our plan? Just change course. You have to make those decisions. But one of the things that I have to tell clients occasionally is that when you find these little surprises, if you decide to move forward with them, sometimes you can't identify the cost. You certainly can't to the penny. And so you have to have a system where everybody feels comfortable. I feel comfortable. I'm going to be able to pay the person doing the work. You have to feel comfortable as a homeowner that I'm not going to gouge you with it. And so, of course, the first thing that I always say is, well, let's just do an estimate and make sure that you're comfortable with where it can go. But one of the things I'll tell you when I'm doing that estimate is the following. Every time you see a workman on your property, remember that they're getting paid every Friday. So when you're asking for extras or you run into extra cost or extra scope, Someone's getting paid to do that. Now, and when I say every workman, I don't care what their trade is. If there's someone out there working on your property, they're getting paid. So if you're asking them to do work that wasn't in the original scope, you have to expect that it's going to cost you extra money, and you need to be aware, if you can, of what those dollars are. It doesn't mean you have to stand there all day and police the job. That's what you hire a contractor for. But you need to be aware that everybody gets paid every Friday, and that workmen do not make minimum wage anymore. They make lots of money. I mean, we're talking about people getting paid $20, $25 an hour if they're a skilled tradesperson. So the next step in this process is the materials and what materials cost and why they cost what they cost. And Poonam was going to talk to us about her experience as a designer and architect and the basic cost of some of the materials or the process of establishing that.
Yeah, so when you are orchestrating a renovation, you have to make sure that all the materials are on site so that your contractor has the materials readily available when the subcontractors are on site and ready to install. And if you look at some of my Excel sheets and documentation of the materials that we've gotten for projects, we're talking about anywhere between 200 to 300 plus line items. So these are 300 plus materials that we're having to select. And each one can be on the high, medium, or low end. And so quickly you can begin to see how those numbers add up. For example, tile, you can go find something on sale for $2 to $5 a square foot. At the same time, the nicer stuff that most of my clients like is around the $20 to $60 a square foot tile.
And so you know Alex's rule here, right? I told you Alex's rule. The more you love it, the more it costs. Just deal with that. That's right, isn't it? I'm right. Tell me I'm right.
We call
yeah,
it.
you're right.
we call it champagne taste on a beer diet.
that everybody's got a beer budget. Everybody's got a beer budget.
Yeah.
And so one of my rules is when you're shopping, everybody needs to pick something out they like. And I'm including the kids in this. Like, let's say you're doing some things with kids. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Let them be involved. Let dad be involved and mom be involved. And then you sit down and have that big old dog fight over who's not getting what they want because it won't meet the budget. You get yours next year. Okay, I'm sorry. I just had to get that in there. So you've got a list of 200 or 300 things, an Excel sheet that you're talking about a high, medium, low. Do you give your clients a high, medium, and low option?
What I prefer is that the clients give me their budget to begin with. That way, as I'm making selections, I have a higher chance of success of meeting your budget on the first round. There's also clients that are very weary, kind of like what you were talking about earlier, where they're just very nervous about sharing numbers and feeling like they're going to be taken advantage of, and then they don't give me numbers. So then what I do is I say, okay, if you like the stuff on my website, that's medium to high quality. So I'm going to price everything to be medium to high. And then I'll show them the numbers, and then they'll freak out. And so then we have to waste more time and more energy to revise that to meet their budget. Yeah. And so I find it inefficient. At the same time, I understand that there are clients who have a concern of revealing their numbers.
I occasionally have somebody, I'll give a price to them, and they'll say, can you do the mid-grade job, Alex? Can you make it? I'll even take the low grade. I don't care. But I just don't want to pay that much money. And I have to explain that I don't have a mid-grade and a low grade. I have a grade. I do it the way I do it. And so I think this is an interesting point. When you're going through the selection of an actual contractor, and maybe a designer, architect, I don't know, but for certain what I deal with as a contractor, make sure you're going to hire a contractor that can do the quality work that you expect. And trust me, if you hire a cheap person, you will get a cheap job, and I guarantee you will not be happy with it at some point. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more of Remodel Revolution. We'll be right back. I love it. Sometimes it's a question of do I call or don't I call the foundation repair company? Well, what if I tell you that I know a foundation repair company that will tell you if you don't need foundation repair? That's right. Hargrave and Hargrave Foundation Repair has been in business for over 50 years, and they know the difference. One of the last family-owned foundation repair businesses in North Texas. Not only are they honest, they know what causes your foundation to move, and they know how to fix it. Don't be duped by fly-by-night foundation companies that provide shortcuts and messy fixes. Call Hargrave and Hargrave Foundation Repair at 972-442-3415. At the first sign of trouble, Hargrave uses the Chance Helical Pier system exclusively because it's the highest quality, most reliable helical pier money can buy. 972-442-3415 or contact them at hargravefoundation.com. So Poonam and I were discussing this earlier, and along the same lines of what we've been discussing is when you first meet a new client and you're interviewing the new client and they're interviewing you. And one of the things that I have learned over the years of doing this is that I'm really sort of, when I'm meeting with you for the first time and we're discussing a project, we're really kind of interviewing each other. A lot of times, it used to be, and particularly when business is slow for everybody, when it's a big competition between the contractors. And so you have sort of an advantage as a homeowner where you can maybe strike a deal. But right now, that's not the case, and really should never be the case. You should be talking to somebody that's going to give you the quality for the price, and you're going to be happy with it forever. That's sort of how I operate. But a lot of times when I'm interviewing people, we're sort of checking each other out. And this is a particularly interesting thing from the designer architect standpoint, because architects, to me, now I can hire as a homeowner, I can find a super expensive architect, that does mansions, or I can find someone that kind of does things along my line. And not that they're any less of an architect, it's just that, just like in my business as a contractor, what do you focus on and what are your strengths in that business? So when you're interviewing a client, you're sort of kind of trying to figure out if you're the right person for them, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I absolutely, when I work on projects, it's not a simple transaction that takes 5 minutes. I'm working with these clients for 6 months, sometimes even 2 years, depending on the scope and size of the project. And so for me, my sanity is very important. And so I'm vetting the clients as well. I'm looking for things like, how good is their memory? Are they going to remember that they told me A, but then accidentally change it up on B?
In the same conversation.
In the same conversation. I'm looking for that.
Right.
I'm looking for the dynamics between the couple. I've had clients fight in front of me, and that puts me in an uncomfortable situation where I have to play marriage counselor.
You mean you actually have one of the one side call you and say, "Don't tell the other side that I told you."
Oh, that's the worst. They're
Uh,
like, "Yeah, just give me more closet space. He won't even know." And I'm like, I can't do that.
or I've been saving my money. No, you haven't. You're going to put it on his credit card. I know what you're doing.
Yeah, one time I had a client tell me, just get it. Don't put it on the books. And I said, I can't do that. That violates my desire to be transparent. So I'm looking for things within my clients as well. I'm looking for how reasonable they are, their dynamics between their relationship. I'm looking for how well they are able to stick to what they're saying, how how good of a grasp that they have on what it is that their vision is for the renovation.
Are they visual? Are they
they
not
visual?
visual? Are you going to have to spend a lot of time doing detail work for them, which is fine if they don't mind paying you to do that?
Right.
Or they hand you something they did on a legal pad. This is what I want. This is the plan. No. That's not the plan we're going to work by, right? Yeah, I just think it's important that people understand that this is a relationship that you're having. It's more than just a business relationship when someone's in your home, like it or not. I had a guy I was doing business with for a long time, and in the remodeling business, his whole focus was, I don't care. I'm only in this for the money. I don't care about anything else. And that was reflected on the project he was doing for me. You know, when things happen and you have to be a little flexible with your time or a little flexible with your budget, and I'm not talking about thousands of dollars. I'm just saying someone staying an extra hour or something like that, or the client asking you to do something small. And he would say, that's not in my job scope. I don't care. I'm leaving. Or if you want me to do it, I'm going to charge you an extra hour's labor. And I finally had to sit down with the guy and say, look, in this business, it's very personal and it's a team approach. It's a teamwork approach. The designer, the architect, the contractor, the homeowner, and then their teams. You know, everybody has to work together. And you have to look at it in a holistic approach. All right? And so do you have to explain this to people too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. For some reason, it could be, I work with so many intelligent people, and it surprises me how unfamiliar and how shocked they are with the process. I always have to tell them some sort of blurb about how, renovation is kind of like taking a flight where you can expect turbulence. You don't know how much and for how long, but brace yourselves, and we'll just figure out how to have fun along the way.
It's a fantastic analogy, and just hope you don't crash. Hope the landing is as good as the takeoff.
And also, too, with numbers, people get so surprised. It's like, okay, we have the cost of tuition, for example, and then we have a general understanding of how much a car costs, and then we have a general understanding of how much a house costs. In Dallas, it's hard to find anything under $300,000, but then when we show our renovation costs, everybody acts so shocked, and it's like, this is the most expensive purchase you'll ever make, with or without this renovation.
Well, besides the fact that Alex keeps reminding his audience and his clients, your house was not built to be remodeled. And you just need to always, always remember that. So it's expensive to take something. It's kind of like if you buy a car and then you go to the car dealership and you go, hey, would you add an extra trunk? I need another trunk. I need a third seat in the back. It's the same thing to me. It's the same thing. And they'll go, how much does it cost to add a room over the garage? Well, I don't know. How much does a car cost by the pound? I don't know. Give me a plan. I'll give you a price. But that gets a lot of people in trouble when they don't plan for that. I've had homeowners that just go, oh, don't worry about it. Just do it. We'll take care of it. And then they get really upset with me at the end of the project because all those don't worry about it, take care, we'll just take care of it. Don't worry about it. Adds up to a lot of money. It adds up to a lot of money, and I have to pay the guy that did it. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of got off on the interview part of this, but it's important, like Poonam was saying, it's very important that when you're interviewing the contractor design team, I call it a design team, and the design team to me is the designer, architect, if that's two different people, the contractor, the homeowner. That's your team. And everything has to really flow to one person. Generally, it should be the contractor. And I understand a lot of people want some separation there, but you can't work against each other. You can't have and I've been through this so many times where the wife and the designer are buddy, and then the husband's calling the contractor, calling me up going, you don't let anything don't let anything come from them and just do it. It better come through me first because I don't trust them. Happens all the time. It's really common. I don't blame it, But you have to have a team approach to this thing. Everybody has to communicate. And so that's part of that interview process that Poonam's talking about, where she wants to know that the couple's communicating, they're on the same page, and she's not going to have all this stuff thrown at her in the middle of the process. I totally get it. It's very wise to do. So some clients kind of want us to they want us to take them by the hand and they'll just do what we tell them. They'll just kind of walk through the whole process with me. They'll go from start to finish, trust what we tell them. We communicate really well together. If there's changes, there are going to be changes. Then we communicate on price and scheduling and that type of thing. Some clients just don't want to be involved. Some of them just say, I'm hiring you, I'll pay you whatever. Just get it done. Do you get very many of those these days?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do.
And does that put added pressure on you?
It does, but I let them know that it's really important that we have to discuss numbers, and I'd like to do it sooner and later, and I promise them I'll make it as painless as possible, and I try to keep it within 3 to 5 minutes and just give them kind of a high-level bird's eye view of where we are. Here's the target. Here's where we are. And that way I'm not going through each 300 line item and boring the crap out of them.
Well, and
I do make sure I get it in.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do because then a lot of times I'll have one part of the couple that just wants to get it done. They have this vision of what they want. It may be something they wanted their entire life. Seriously, they may say, I've wanted ever since I was a kid to have a room like this or an addition like this or whatever it is. Could be a master suite, who knows. Then I have the other side of the couple, other partner, that is the money person, the detail person. And so you have these two very diametrically different personalities that you have to deal with and balance and juggle and please and be nice to, and sometimes you have to be an adult with them. It's really tough. I really appreciate you coming in today, co-hosting with me. It's been a lot of fun. I'm so proud of you. You're really taking off. Your business is great. Your career path is amazing. To your TEDx thing, that's a big deal. When is it gonna? Do you know when they're gonna when they're going to publish it?
Yeah, so the video is in post-production right now, and they are telling us that they'll need until the end of March, early April.
And so how do you find TEDx?
They have their own website, so you can just go to TED.com. If you want to look for specifically mine, you can Google Poonam Patel TEDx and find a search that way.
And find it? Cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed having you as always.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Next week, we're going to have Robin Garten. She is the first woman in construction interview I did a couple of years ago. She's Pink Belts Roofing, and she has moved her company from Canada to Texas. So we're really excited to have her here, and I invited her to come in and visit with us. And my old friend Steve Lawton of Total Air and Heat. We're going to talk about getting your air conditioning systems ready for the spring. Here we are. It's the middle of February already. Also, don't forget to check out our website, our YouTube channel, our podcast. I've actually talked to somebody yesterday, told me they've listened to every podcast. They love it. So I know a lot of you love podcasts. Also, starting this Sunday, you can catch our show on the Texas Weather Tracker TV channel on Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. So we're very, very excited about that, and hope you'll send me some emails when you see the show, when you watch the show. Our audience is just really growing quickly. I love to hear from you. If you have anything you want me to bring up or talk about, a project you're about to do, any advice you need, let me know. I love communicating with you, and I really appreciate you as an audience very, very much. Appreciate our sponsors. Thank you, On Air Media, and Ziggy Becker, our director / engineer / producer / he's not the janitor. Someone else does that. And thank you, of course, to all of our sponsors. We really do appreciate you so much. Until next week, this is Alex Guthrie signing off. I look forward to seeing you soon.
The views and opinions of this program are for educational and entertainment purposes only and are not intended to replace the recommendations of a hired professional. You can catch Remodel Revolution anytime. Follow the show on the website, remodelrevolutionradio.com, or on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, using the handle @Remodel Revolution Radio. You can always listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn, and watch the show anytime on YouTube.